Yo, what up guys, it's Flark. And yes, I had to absolutely make this video. Big changes coming in 10.0.5. We already knew there was going to be PvE changes, some PvE talent reworks, but then they dropped this bomb just today. PvP modifiers everywhere, completely meta-defining, shifting, changing. I'm not even being exaggeratory with that. It really is going to completely change the game come Tuesday. Now, of course, I had to make this video. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, so it's a little rushed, but doesn't matter. When I had a stream earlier today, people were rushing into the stream, typing in chat, "Oh my God, is DK dead? What happened? What are your thoughts? What's going on?" And I play this game 24 hours a day, so the least I can do is, do something right here, and at least, help put your minds at ease by going over these changes and using critical thinking, rational thought to describe what the heck is going on and what we can expect from it. Now, spoiler alert, I think it's a really good thing, both for the game as a whole and also DK. Now, I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes explaining why I believe that. And by the end of it, hopefully you are on the same wavelength as me. But these frequent changes in PvP tuning specifically reminds me a lot of Legion, which was a great PvP expansion in most people's eyes. So I honestly feel really happy about this. And a lot of people came into my stream and the DK Discord thinking like, DK's done. I can't believe they would do this. Let me explain to you why that's not true now, so you can get as excited for Tuesday. I'm gonna flip your emotions right now. You're gonna go from mortified to like, whoa, I can't believe how happy I am, right? It seems impossible, but I'm gonna do it. Watch this. Okay, so we start. First, Gladiator's Distinction. This is a massive change because it's a sweeping change. Stamina increase for all classes, all specs, everyone. And a primary stat decrease. So that's more survivability, less damage. And it's more survivability, especially for classes that scale with percentage health-based effects like we do. Now, it's only like 15k health for DKs, but it does not matter because a sweeping change does slow down the meta. Think of this like 3% stam and 2% damage reduct or something. It's a sweeping change that absolutely slows down the meta, but it's also going to be combined with a lot of other burst-oriented PvP tuning. Which when you combine those things together slows down the meta even more and makes these changes even more impactful. Again, we do great with stamina, so that's just kind of a buff to DK. Not a tremendous buff to DK, but it is there. Okay, but now we go on to the DK stuff, and this is very important. So first of all, of course, we have to look at this one. This is going to be the defining feature, right? Death Strike healing is no longer reduced in PvP combat. It used to be reduced by 25%. So this puts the minimum healing up to about 9% from 6.7. And the burst healing is actually affected by this too. So our reaction to burst healing can be a little bit more sizable now. And all modifiers in this game seem to be multiplicative, which means when you stack modifier on modifier on modifier, they have a multiplicative compounding effect. So they get better the more of the modifiers you have. We've seen this in Shadowlands, where you're getting one shot by every class because they had like 50 modifiers that all work together. And what does that even mean here? Well, that matters here too, because we have versatility that increases Death Strike. We have improved Death Strike that increases Death Strike. Even though it's nerfed in PvP, it still exists, that 30%. And then we have the extra stamina. All of those things will compound multiplicatively to make this buff even more impactful than just the 25% that's being reduction that's being removed. This buff, right? So this is huge, right? This is absolutely great for us because now we get that 9.1%, but then that's going to be buffed by the 30%, and then that's going to be buffed by versatility, and then that's going to be buffed by the extra stamina. So Death Strike may feel like a pretty impactful button again. Who knew? Great change. Thank you, Jesus, right? Now, everybody skips this, or they don't skip it, but they just say, I don't care. It's still nerfed. Look, see, it's still nerfed. Who cares, right? Well, we care because Death Strike, I did some calculations, the minimum heal with all of those compounding effects will be closer to like 50, 60K before dampening. So we'll get lower over the course of the arena, but that's still fine. Fucking some healing, thank God. The other thing is our burst reaction is going to be better. So if we do take an enormous amount of damage, which we are more capable of doing now with higher health pools, right? So more damage can be dealt to us before we die. We actually will get some sizable Death Strikes in response to that. Cool, thank God, right? Okay, but now all the stuff that you see this is not good, right? You see Enfeeble, this is nerfed by 33%. Yeah, okay, but we can kind of skip past this one because again, Death Strike is getting buffed. And also this is only to one player, and it doesn't affect Frost at all. Of course, it does affect Unholy, but it's only one player and it's only 33%. So are you really going to notice this very often? I don't think so. What you will notice is the fact that Rune of Spell Warding effectively does not exist anymore. So the Spell Warden PvP talent no longer exists. It's going to be completely worthless. I guess you could run it into Wizards if you still want to try and just milk out as much survivability as possible, but I think Strang is just going to be a better option in every possible way. And that gets me to my next point. So, Rune of Spell Warding, I actually advocated for this, by the way, so if you're mad at Blizzard, be mad at me, because I talked about it in Twitter and DK Discord in my stream. I talked about it everywhere. I thought Spell Warden should be removed and Death Strike should be reverted. And it looks like they're doing that, although they didn't do it the whole way, but we'll see how this works first. And here's why. Rune of Spell Warden is a PvP talent slot. It's completely passive and it counters exactly one type of damage. So we feel like a rock, paper, scissors-y sort of thing. You look at the solo shuffle and you're like, ugh, or you're like, oh, yay, right? That's stupid. I want to have answers to all the, in solo shuffle, it's random. It's completely random. I want to have answers to each type of damage, right? I don't want to go in and just be like, roll the dice. Hopefully I don't get a warrior, right? Of course, warrior's still going to do very well into us, but these are the types of changes that'll help that stop being so much of a problem, because we're removing something that's passive, takes up a PvP talent slot, and only works against one type of damage. And then we are adding survivability against both types of damage, right? Death Strike is the survivability against both types of damage, and we're adding a PvP talent slot, because look at this. Think about it. This buff to our survivability does not take a PvP talent slot, but that ability did. Therefore, Unholy can run Strang, Frost can run Bitter Chill, Strang, Necro Aura, Remorseless, Unholy can run Necro Aura, right? Having a Stun Silence, 9-second CC when they don't have a Trinket, all instant, not peelable, is still really good pressure. And there are a little bit of pressure nerfs coming up that, of course, we're going to talk about. But think about that. We get some survivability in the form of not a PvP talent and toward a type of damage that isn't affected by Rune of Spell Warden, right? And we get a PvP talent that allows us to keep the pressure that we have by now having a 9-second unpeelable CC chain that's all instant, right? And pretty decent range. Yeah, so I like this. I like this change. Now, a lot of people are seeing this and they're not so happy. And I get that, because this doesn't have, like, this had a counter, right? The Death Strike and the Rune of Spell Warden, maybe I can make the argument that they cancel each other out, especially with the stam buffs. But Unholy, now the pressure is just getting flat nerfed. There's no way around it. It's just doing less pressure. But I think this is okay. And here's why. So first of all, of course, what it does is Necrotic Wounds now is going to be a 24% MS instead of a 30% MS, of course, if it's stacked. So it's a stackable MS, right? What that means is it's actually not that big of a nerf if you're stacking with a different MS. So in the case of you playing with a warrior or a hunter or a windwalker, they already have a 25% MS. So that means they're taking 75% incoming healing, and then the Necrotic Wounds is applied to that remaining 75%. So it would have been 30% of 75%. So just to explain that to you a little better, the idea is that this nerf, when you're stacking it with another MS, will only be like maybe a 4.75% nerf instead of a 6% nerf. So a little smaller there. Of course, you get a little bit less healing, but now you have more max health, so that will help balance it out a little bit more. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem at all. And then the big one, most all of our hybrid builds use big virulent plague. Well, all of our hybrid builds use big virulent plague damage, and now that is getting a 30% nerf because it used to be buffed in PvP combat, and now it's not. This does actually possibly enable some more build diversity for Unholy, because there's the pet build that's huge burst when you use Festermite and Commander instead of the disease, and that's just huge nuke, and a pretty good 45-second go, actually, a really good 45-second go, and a good 1-minute 30 go, because you have Dark Transform, APOC, and Unholy Assault all line up at the same time. But also we have like the Reaping build, right, with Big Clawing, Big Death Coil, Big Soul Reaper. That could be really fun, especially with the higher health pools that make them in 35% health range more often. So that could be really interesting. Of course, this is all speculation. Please, I'm not going to give you the build that you're going to run in this video that is about something that's not even released 4 days from now, right? So you're going to have to wait for me to experiment and for me to understand like what these changes do, how the meta develops, play with the builds, see what I like. I'll have my 3rd DK leveled for that. And then I'll make the YouTube guides again for the new builds and after the new patch, and that'll be great and you'll be loving it. But please, no, I don't know. We're going to have to get some experimentation. Anybody who tells you what builds are going to be run as of Tuesday is lying to you, and they insult your intelligence. So please don't bother. Right. So that's all that. So, but yes, those are nerfs. Those are output nerfs. Again, I could see some of the builds maybe changing around, but regardless, that's an output nerf for Unholy. And here's why it's okay. Because all of the other main specs are probably getting more sizable nerfs to their win condition, and Unholy was as good as them, or maybe better, judging by solo shuffle performance and the ladder as a whole. So if we're getting maybe less output nerfs than the other top performing specs, that means Unholy is still going to be really good. And what also happens here is Frost catches up a little bit, because Frost is not affected by Enfeeble very much. Frost is not getting nerfed here. And Frost does get a Death Strike buff, which helps it stay in, which it desperately needs to get value out of Ice Cap. So all of the DK class as a whole should feel actually really good about this. But let's talk about those changes. I'm not going to talk about them in as much detail, but let me show you what I mean. Rake is like all of their damage, 18%. Rip. This is like all their damage, 18%. Ferocious Bite, now that's a 25% negative modifier instead of 20%. Then Feral Frenzy, that's even nerfed. Then Frenzied Regen, that's even nerfed, right? So survivability nerfs, burst nerfs, overall sustain nerfs. I mean, that would be like if instead of it saying Virulent Plague was nerfed, it said every single one of our diseases and maybe even Death Coil was nerfed, right? So that's good, right? That's really impactful. And maybe you could go feral a little bit now that one of their big sources of healing is nerfed, especially with dampening stacking up and this doing less. Maybe more quickly they would be a kill target to even put more pressure on them so they can't keep their bleeds up permanently, but when they do, it's not as impactful. So maybe you could pressure them more, right? Because they can't counter pressure you as well. And this is actually, again, this is a big change. That's bite. That's what they're getting 1 million of by ripping all of our pets, right? So they're getting free bites, and now even that's nerfed by a little bit. Boomkin's getting some huge buffs. That should be fine. Devastation is getting a little bit of a damage rework. Burst is being nerfed. That's going to be a key component of this entire thing. Let's take a look real quick at Paladin. Big burst nerfs, 20% to Final Reckoning, 33% to Radiant Decree. So that's all good. A little bit of survivability buff, though, and sustained damage buff from Final Verdict, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Blade of Justice. So they're rework. This is why this is good, right? They're reworking the game into less burst, a little bit more sustain, a little bit more health, a little bit easier on healers. And that's all real good for DK that kind of wants to stay in and apply the wounds and get the rot pressure, or Frost that wants to get the ice cap, and that compounding with the Death Strike buffs. Yeah, I think that's going to be good. And again, 33% and 20%, big flat nerfs to a win condition of Ret, which is the 1-2 punch of one-shotting your whole team. That's probably even more sizable than what happened to Unholy. Now, of course, Ret gets a lot of survivability buffs because that's one area where they are pretty terrible right now. And these are big buffs, right? These are big buffs. Their wall being 30%, their extra healing here, their extra healing from Word of Glory. Those are big buffs. Like, they're going to be a lot more survivable. But if they're not one-shotting you as easily, then you keep the pressure on them. They still have to maybe run a little bit, and your rot pressure is going to be even more impactful. Because they can't just turn around and right. What they do now is they turn around and one-shot you. If they turn around and get you low, but then they have to run again, you didn't even really have to worry too much. So there's a lot of good changes coming with just less burst, more sustain, and targeting the right areas. They're even nerfing Ellie's Burst here, as you can see, reduced 50% effectiveness. Lava Burst increased, now 60% effective, right? A little bit of buffs to Fury, and Arms will be getting love like no other. So a lot of people talked about how they were nervous about that too. Because Warrior does traditionally well into DK. Well, then you should like the path that we're going down right now, because guess what? Spell Warden's not helping that, buddy. Shoot, you know, now that they nerfed us so much, we can't do as good into all the warriors that are going to be around. Yeah, right? And that doesn't make any sense. This change coming in when warriors are coming in is a blessing. Imagine dealing, if you don't think this is very good, then imagine dealing with warriors when you didn't have this Death Strike healing nerf reversion. Like, that it would just be harder. Warriors do no spell damage, so we're just better against warriors than we would have been had this patch not come out. So yeah, I'm personally on the side that, okay, you're right. Unholy gets a little bit of output nerfs, but the direction the game is going is very healthy. And Frost gets a lot of indirect buffs from this. From Feral getting nerfed to Unholy getting some nerfs, and Red getting burst nerfs, and Devastation burst nerfs, Ellie burst nerfs, some more stamina, some more Death Strike healing, a bit of damage reduction to everybody from this Gladiator's Distinction nerf, right? It allows them to stay in, get ice cap value, and do more frequent goes, which is what I've been asking for every day on stream and Twitter for the longest time. Now, if I had to guess, there's a chance that maybe, you know, especially against Arms, you know, maybe DK, still a little squishy, right? Okay, fine, you win. So, what they should do, because it does seem like they're paying attention to what I say, just try this at 25% instead of 50%, right? You have this. Improved Death Strike's effectiveness is still reduced by 50%. If it finds out that DKs are paper in the current meta, maybe I'm wrong, maybe this wasn't enough, then just try this at 25%. And that's a perfectly rational way, because again, we're moving away from the hard countering a spec passively with a PvP talent into giving us our active mitigation back, because I think that was a fool's errand from them to remove our active mitigation and keep it all passive healing like wounds and spell warden. So I personally believe that we're going to do great in this new meta that's going to be developing on Tuesday. But on the off chance that I've overestimated us, even though after the last set of nerfs, Unholy's still 3,200 MMR, no problem in solo shuffle, right? I believe that I'm right about this, but I can give them some advice. 25%. Try that for the improved Death Strike effectiveness nerf, right? So you can make it a 75% effectiveness in PvP instead of only 50%, okay? All right, but guys, listen. This is good stuff for Frost players everywhere. You should just be ecstatic. Everything's getting nerfed besides Frost. And certain things are getting buffed like Boomkin, but Boomkin is absolutely, literally does nothing. At least Frost has pressure. Boomkin does nothing, right? We're getting Frost is getting a Death Strike buff and is seeing Feral nerfs and Ret nerfs and Ellie nerfs. So, and Unholy is getting nerfed, but it is getting nerfed maybe not even as much as some of the other top performing specs, while getting a couple of little buffs here and there to its difficulty dealing with physical damage, which is going to be much more prominent in the meta that's going to have more warriors in it. Also, we play with warriors in threes if you're not just playing solo shuffle, but you're also playing threes on Holy TSG, even Frost TSG, with Arms, looking to be a S tier. Can I make an S with my hands? 5-star, 10-star con. No, it really is. It's going to be so good. So good for DKs to try. So good. I've been waiting for that comp to be good again for a while, and it looks like it's going to be. So guys, outside of this, here are the Arms Warriors buff that people are talking about, and some talent reworks that I'm not going to go over to. look at an Arms Warrior video for that. Fury, here's some Fury sustained buffs, and you got the Fury buffs for PvP at the bottom. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more Warriors. So yeah, thank God we got Death Strike healing and not Spell Warden being our only answer. But let's take a look, guys. On Tuesday, I really think this shifts the meta in a positive way. Slows down burst, slows down one-shot, makes more healers want to play the game, which will mean faster queues in solo shuffle for you guys. I know I've repeated myself a lot, but it's 1:30 in the morning, and sometimes I've even forgotten what I've already told you. But if there's anything else you have questions about, you can come to me on stream. You can type in the comments below. Ask away, discuss away in the comments below. Please, we can have some enriching conversations about how you think the meta is going to be. But just too long, didn't read. Here, I'll even timestamp this. Too long, did not read. DK's okay. The nerfs Our survivability nerfs are compounded with buffs that actively increase our active mitigation as well as physical survivability, which is great because you know how much we suffer into that. There are output nerfs for Unholy, but they are not even more than the other specs are getting output nerfs, keeping us at a very good place at the top of the meta. And Frost should just be better overall, which is nice to see considering the lack of love Frost has got. Every single thing, the tuning, the frequent tuning passes, the constant changes for PvP and all the ways they're targeting the changes in the right way does make me have high hopes for not only Tuesday, but the expansion as a whole. Okay, sorry for sounding like a broken record, but that's what I believe, and you can comment below what your thoughts are. Okay, see you around. Bye. Can't wait. See ya.